Mammoths survived freezing winds, giant predators, and thousands of years of Ice Age storms. They were huge, they were powerful, and they were perfectly built for the cold. So why did they disappear? At first, it seems impossible. A woolly mammoth could weigh several tons. It had long curved tusks, thick fur, a layer of fat, and a body designed to survive in one of the harshest environments on Earth. To early humans, a mammoth must have looked like a moving mountain. But even mountains can fall. And the story of the mammoth is not just a story about hunting. It is a story about climate, food, shrinking habitats, human pressure, and the danger of being perfectly adapted to a world that no longer exists. To understand what happened, we have to go back to the Ice Age. During the coldest parts of the Ice Age, much of the northern world was covered in open grasslands. This environment is often called the Mammoth Steppe. It was cold, dry, windy, and enormous. To us, it might look harsh, but for mammoths, this was home. The Mammoth Steppe was filled with grasses, herbs, low plants, and wide open spaces, and mammoths needed a lot of it. A giant animal needs huge amounts of food. Every day, a mammoth had to eat, move, search, and survive. As long as the grassland stretched across the land, mammoths could travel in herds and find enough food. But after the Ice Age began to end, the world started to warm. Slowly, the frozen world changed. Ice melted, rain patterns shifted, forests spread into places that had once been open grassland. Wetlands, lakes, shrubs, and trees began replacing the Mammoth Steppe. For many animals, this new world created new opportunities. But for mammoths, it created a problem. Their home was shrinking. Imagine a giant animal built for cold, open land, suddenly surrounded by forests, softer ground, and less of the food it depended on. The mammoth was not weak. It was specialized. And specialization is powerful when the world stays the same. But when the world changes, being specialized can become a death sentence. The mammoth did not need to lose everything at once. It only needed to lose enough. Less grass, less space, more difficult migration routes, smaller herds, more stress. Bit by bit, survival became harder. But nature alone was not the only force pushing mammoths toward the edge. Then came another pressure. Humans. Early humans did not wipe out every mammoth on Earth by themselves. That is not how extinction usually works. But humans could add pressure to animals that were already struggling. Humans were intelligent hunters. They worked in groups. They used fire, tools, planning, and memory. They could track animals across landscapes. They could learn migration routes. They could remember where herds passed year after year, and they could pass that knowledge down to the next generation. For a healthy mammoth population, human hunting alone might not have been enough. But for smaller, stressed populations already living on borrowed time, even a little extra pressure could tip the balance. This is the key insight. Extinction is rarely caused by one single thing. It is almost always a stack of problems arriving at the wrong time. Climate change, less food, shrinking habitat, human pressure, smaller herds, bad luck. One problem may not destroy a species, but many problems at the same time can push it over the edge. On the mainland, mammoths slowly disappeared from region after region. But that was not the end of the story. Some mammoths survived much longer in isolated places. On remote islands, small groups of mammoths continued living long after their mainland relatives had vanished. These were the last survivors of a lost world. But island populations carry a hidden weakness. They are small, A small population can seem safe for a while. Fewer predators, fewer humans, enough food for now. But small populations are fragile in ways that are easy to miss. If the climate shifts, there are fewer animals to recover. If food becomes scarce, there is nowhere else to go. If disease arrives, it can spread through the entire group quickly. If the herd becomes too small, genetic problems quietly build up over generations. For the last mammoths, isolation was both a refuge and a trap. They survived longer than their mainland relatives, but they were always living on the edge. And eventually, even the last herds disappeared. So why did mammoths vanish? Not because they were weak, not because one catastrophic event wiped them out overnight, and not because one simple answer explains everything. Mammoths disappeared because the world they were built for disappeared first. The climate warmed, the grasslands shrank, food became harder to find. Humans added pressure at the worst possible moment. Small populations became fragile, and the last survivors simply ran out of room to adapt. The mammoth was one of the greatest animals the Ice Age ever produced. But even greatness has limits, because survival is not just about strength. It is about fitting the world around you. And when that world changes faster than you can follow, even giants can vanish without a trace. So the next time you stand in front of a mammoth skeleton in a museum, remember this. You are not just looking at a giant animal. You are looking at a warning. A reminder that life can be powerful, successful, and perfectly adapted to its world, right up until that world is gone. And that is the mystery and the lesson of why mammoths disappeared.